Meet your new go-to for a fresh and inclusive approach to health.
Wellness Rebranded is the pod where a dietitian, a personal trainer, and a mental health therapist combine perspectives to help you redesign your relationship with food, fitness, and your feelings.
Whether we're serving up juicy stories, breaking down the latest research, or dropping practical tips, we'll leave you informed, inspired, and ready to take health-promoting action.
We get you because we are you.
We've joined forces because we know that health isn't one-dimensional, and neither are you.
Tune in for real talk that cuts through the wellness and diet culture hype. Stay for the laughs, the insights, and the feel-good vibes.
The Annapolis Symphony Orchestra invites you to join fellow music lovers and our accomplished professional orchestra, led by artistic director and conductor Jose Luis Novo. We're Anne Arundel County's oldest and largest performing arts nonprofit. For 63 years, we've brought exceptional music performances to Annapolis and across Anne Arundel County. Join us at Maryland Hall or the Music Center at Strathmore for our remaining concerts in our 63rd season. Pictures at an exhibition January 31st through February 2nd, featuring our own concertmaster, Netanel Dryblot. Serenade February 28th through March 2nd, with works by Beethoven and Bernstein, featuring violinist Noah Bendix-Bogley. And Fiesta April 4th and 5th, featuring the world premiere of Roy Densey's newest composition and the vibrant music of the Dali String Quartet. Let the music inspire you. Get your tickets today at AnnapolisSymphony.org.
As a mother, is there anything more important than your kid's mental health? Sometimes it feels like that's on the top of my mind as a mom. And in this episode of the Wellness Rebranded podcast, Maria is going to give us some helpful hints and tips for making sure that our kids are mentally healthy and how to support them through any mental health issues they might be having.
Yeah, and there are moms out there that probably believe that the most important things on their kids is something different, not necessarily mental health.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I think we can focus on how can we support mental health in general for our kids, whether they're going through difficult times or not, just overall the same way we support physical health, maybe, looking on how to nurture them or how to promote movement, how to support our kids' mental health. I'm going to start with something kind of controversial. This
I love a
podcast.
little.
I've learned in my personal experience, I know now because of what I have gone through in my personal life with my kids and myself, that I don't think I was able or as able to support my kids' mental health until I started doing the work myself.
Is that controversial?
I was just going to say that.
Well, it could be controversial in terms of like, oh, but I already have so much to do. It can create pressure sometimes,
It's kind
because
of like the same as supporting your kids to have a happy, healthy relationship with food. I mean, you really got to do the work on your own relationship with food and your body. I mean, I guess you can do them at the same time, but you can't ignore yours
Yeah.
and be able to effectively support theirs.
Totally. Something that I learned from you, and we've talked about this, is that I caught myself making comments about my body when I would walk in front of the mirror or just in general. Oh, mommy's getting so fat. I'm eating this that I shouldn't be eating. All those messages that I was sending my kids without knowing. So I needed to do the work on that area too. Same with mental health overall. I needed to start doing the work myself in terms of how to know how to model healthy coping strategies with my kids. That doesn't mean that I don't lose control frequently, but I can, they're going to see mom maybe losing her cool.
Honestly, it's an area that I wish that I would have known more about when I was raising my kids. I mean, mine are all college age and older, and I did my best, but that is an area where I could have done a lot better.
And no guilt or shame, right? We can do what we can do with what we have at that time. But I think the first thing I want to share is do the work on yourself, because when you can demonstrate how you manage stress and emotions and maybe even share some techniques of how to deal with things or how to bring that pause to your brain, or even mindfulness can be key.
Also, just helping them identify emotions. Like, I think that's the part that I really didn't do very well.
Sweetie pie, I'm gonna get to that.
Okay.
That's number 2. But here's a story or something that worked for me, and one day I realized that it was working, because sometimes you don't know what's working with your kids. Like, you repeat yourself like a parrot, and then one day your kid is like, "Oh yeah," and they repeat it back. I'm like, "Oh, you've been listening all these 10 years, right?"
Yeah.
It's like, for me, the mindfulness thing, we live in Annapolis, right? As many of you know, and we're surrounded by water. So on my daily drive, there's a lot of bridges we have to go through. So you see this beautiful view of the water and boats, depending on the season, right? So I'm the typical, I'm the mom that every time I see a nice sunset, I'm like, "Look, guys, look at all the colors in the sky. It's like today is like orange and mixed with yellow and a little bit of pink."
I saw
And
the
look
most beautiful sunset last night in my backyard. I was taking sweet Coco out to go to the bathroom, and I literally was like, I just need to pause for a second. There's no one here to tell, but I'm just gonna take it in.
Yes. One time I wanted a picture of the sunset, but we couldn't see it well. So I drove. I'm like, "We're going sunset chasing." Yes. And my kid is like, "Okay, weird." And I'm like, "Yes, let's chase the sunset," so I could find a place to take the
I one
picture.
time tried to chase rainbows in Hawaii.
There you go. That counts.
Dude, so the other day we were coming to Maria's emotional fitness studio, and there was the most beautiful sunset on the way. So I'm in the car rapping my favorite song, and I'm just like totally vibing. And I look over and see this beautiful sunset, and I was like, "Oh my God, look at it, it's so gorgeous." And of course, I was like, "Elizabeth, there was no one there to tell." So I just like burst into tears, and then I was like, "Oh my God, is this perimenopause?" It might be.
Or it might be that you're noticing those beautiful things, and those seconds of you noticing that sunset and even tearing up is good for your mental health.
Yeah, I agree.
It's actually good.
Yeah.
So when we drive through those bridges, I'm like, look at the water, how pretty, and the boat. So, and of course my kids is like, "Oh yeah, whatever, mom, like whatever." One day the little one, one day the little one says, "Mom, look at the sunset." And I'm like, "Yes, score." I'm like, it works. It can have.
That's
So
how I feel, by the way, around family dinner. When my kids were smaller, we've always had family dinner. I mean, to the extent that we're able, but it's definitely been a priority in my house from the time that my kids were babies. And I always grew up having family dinner, so did my husband. And there came a point in their childhood where they actually complained about it. "Oh, why do we have to sit here and eat dinner every night? Why can't we be like so-and-so's family? They can just go get whatever they want, whenever they want." And, I always just thought to myself, seriously? Like, I thought they were supposed to be happy about family dinner. And also, sorry, we're not doing it that way. And now I believe they all look forward to it. And, whenever they're home, what time's dinner? What are we having? Like,
Aw,
see,
love
I knew you
that.
guys would like it someday.
So I guess if there's a takeaway from what we've talked so far, even if you have a purpose and what you're doing has an intention and you believe the results can be beneficial, even if you don't get feedback right away, keep at it,
Yeah.
because it might come the time that you do see the results years later, like with many other things with our kids. But that's one. So it's do the work, start the work on yourself and model it. When you practice it yourself, you can show your kids these such important tools that are good for their mental health. And even making comments like, "Hey, mom is going to therapy, and I went to my therapist today, and she said I can work a little more on this and that. What do you guys think?" And normalizing, that's I guess another point, is normalizing the talk about mental health. And going to what Elizabeth was saying, normalizing and opening emotional communication at home. How much do we really talk about emotions being such an important part of you? Because there's, like I always say in my workshops, there's only one group of people that don't feel emotions. Those are dead people. Otherwise, we have them 24/7, even when you sleep. I don't know if happened to you guys. I've woken up a few times tearing up, or I wake up happy because of something I dreamed about. Emotions are there, but how much are we talking about our kids or sending the message that it's okay to express their feelings without judgment, rather than, "You're going to get mad for that? Oh, don't tell me you're sad." Like, punishing
Or just, like,
emotions.
brushing them off, like, it's fine, let's blah, blah, blah. I think that's probably what I was most guilty of, not on purpose, but
I think it's interesting too because I have a 4-year-old and I find him like repeating back stuff that we've said, and it made me notice like the other
oh, for
day.
heaven's sakes.
Yes, that is something that he says a lot. I don't know who he gets that from, probably Elizabeth. But the other day he came downstairs and he said, "Mom, I'm on the struggle bus today." And I was like, "Really?"
Did you say it in the right context?
Yeah.
That's
He
awesome.
couldn't find his shoes and he was just like, "I'm on a struggle bus."
I love
And
that.
I was just like, "Oh, okay." Like we should probably have conversations about like, happy emotions too sometimes, but like he has said recently the struggle bus and stressed. And I was like, "Oh, okay."
And those count. Those are emotions too, and it's important to identify them. That's what there are really good books out there, like with feeling charts and emotion wheels that we can start teaching kids from a young age. It's like, oh, I see what you're saying. You're feeling sad right now, or you're feeling mad, or you're feeling frustrated, or yes, what happened today in school wasn't fair. So you feel disappointed, whatever it is, because it teaches them to start identifying these emotions, which, by the way, is really key when we want to promote emotional regulation, which is super important even for adults. How many adults are out there
Yeah.
walking around without much
Yeah.
knowledge of emotional regulation, and they're having tantrums or going out and hurting other people? I mean,
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I mean, it comes in with emotional eating too, being able to identify what you're feeling.
mhm.
But also, doesn't it just feel good as a human when you're feeling a certain way and you say something to someone, a friend or a loved one, and they understand and validate what you're feeling?
Yes.
Like they like, oh, you're feeling really stressed out or really angry or really sad right now. Like it feels good
Listen,
to
listen.
be understood.
What you just said
Yeah.
is like the solution to world problems.
I just saw world peace.
Whoa.
Yes, I just saw world peace.
If you could make groceries cheaper, that would be the next thing to
Because
work on.
I always say, when we start seeing each other emotionally,
Yeah.
it's night and
Why is
day.
it so hard?
I
Like, why?
don't know, because emotions, same as we've talked here with diet culture and body shame, it's like we shame emotions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
Emotion shaming.
and
And
we feel like there's some that we're not supposed, like, think about even just like how are you? What does everyone say? Good, fine. Like, you're not
Yeah.
looking, most people are not looking for a real answer.
Mhm.
Actually,
If people give me a real answer, I'm always like, "Oh, I wasn't ready for all that." Like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I didn't actually care.
well, because for some
You
people,
are.
listening to emotions from other people trigger emotions in them and maybe make them nervous or anxious. Like, how do I solve this? Because we also have
Yeah.
this belief that we need to fix it, we need to solve it,
Yeah.
and no, you don't. Emotions deserve a space. Period. There's no need to judge it, solve it, preach it. None of them. The emotion is out there, and I've said it many times here, and I'm gonna say it one more time. They're not right or wrong or good or bad emotions. They are, some are unpleasant, some are pleasant, but all emotions are valid and important. They serve a purpose in your body. What we want to maybe change is the behavior that you show with that emotion, but not the emotion.
Yeah, that is probably the number one thing I've learned from you in doing this
Yeah.
podcast.
So any emotion you feel, so same with your kids, going back to talking about kids and supporting their mental health, don't judge emotions. When a kid is angry, the problem is not the anger that they're feeling. The problem is if they're throwing stuff or kicking stuff, is, maybe, or throwing themselves on the floor at the supermarket, is not the anger. I see that you're angry, little kid. Let's just model ways that we can express that anger, So that's why, I mean, sometimes my kids are allowed to say curse words. No surprise there, because people know my love for curse words, but they know it, sometimes it's okay to say it as long as we know where to say it. And if that helps, that's fine. But maybe modeling, let's go for a quick run. Let's just really shake our body and let that energy go and express it. What made you angry? Yes, that's valid. I'm not going to say, oh, don't be angry about that, or you don't have to. No, I cannot control or regulate other people's emotions. That's counterproductive in many ways. So,
I feel
um,
like what I'm hearing here is that people are not human beings having an emotional experience, we're emotional beings having a human experience. Tell me if this is weird, but I feel like I always think of like, oh, I'm being really emotional right now, right? I'm a
mhm.
human being having an emotional experience, but really we should be thinking of it as we are emotional beings having a human experience.
Yes, yes. It is a human experience. But with the shaming, it's like, oh, she's sad, so she's weak or incapable right now of doing other things or whatever it is. Or this person, I don't know, whatever shaming we're doing with the emotion, because then showing emotions it makes you too vulnerable. Or
And we do it too with happy emotions too, right? Like
Yeah.
you can be really, really happy, but be afraid to show it because you don't want to tick someone else off or
Yeah.
seem a certain way.
Yeah.
Or even receive comments like, what is it with Elizabeth? She's always like so happy. Screw that. I'm sure she's like pretend. I mean,
Yeah.
we can judge either way. Another one, maybe controversial too. I guess I don't know what the meaning of controversial, but two things, parents out there. This is some insight from a mental health therapist. Allow your child to experience distress, failure, and even being bored. Can we stop protecting our kids from experiencing heartache or failure, please?
I was
Please.
just having this conversation with one of my closest friends yesterday.
What
What do they call that? Snowplow parenting?
Yeah, where you like push all the obstacles out of the way.
Yeah.
Please.
And then really you're doing, well, obviously a disservice because the kid doesn't learn how to be resilient, right?
Correct. So when you let your kid, I mean, as long as, of course, the child is safe, we're keeping them safe. If the child is safe, take a back seat sometimes. Let the kid deal with life, the good and the bad. The same way you don't want to get in between them experiencing something super happy and you want to make it about you. Let them experience their happiness and be there to support and be of company and hold that space. Same when they're dealing with distressing emotions or experiences and where they're dealing with anything that feels tough, because that's how they build resilience. That's how they grow. That's how they even build empathy with themselves. They copy from you how to be empathetic with themselves rather than trying to solve it, because then how are we learning? It's like you're feeding them all the time with the fork in their mouth. When do they learn how to hold the fork themselves? When do they learn to make those food choices? When do they learn to the coping strategies with the emotions? Same with being bored. True story, true story. My 10-year-old, and I know I'm not, they probably being on their electronics more than I would like, but she did something and the consequence was to take the iPad away. No, that's not true. That's not what it happened. This is how it happened. I did a post on Instagram. We were at a thing where roller coasters are. What do you call that?
Amusement
An
park.
amusement park. And my kids know that I don't like roller coasters. They make me dizzy. I feel my chest gets tight. It's not a pleasant experience. So my 10-year-old is like, Mom, get on the roller coaster. If you do it, I'll be without the iPad for a week. I would not touch my iPad. You can put it away. I'm like, oh, yeah.
that get you on the coaster?
Yes, I'm up for the challenge.
Wow.
So I got on the roller coaster. It was terrible, bad, but she didn't use the iPad for a week.
Wow.
During this
I'm
week,
shocked that worked.
it worked. I took it away for a whole week. She counted. During this week, this girl started drawing. She came up with the most creative ideas. She got all her books from her bookshelf and put them like it was like a road. And then she had these little carts that we've had in the house forever that nobody uses. She started playing with the cars, and I was like, wow. Wow, so
I was just listening to a podcast episode recently. I forget, I'm sorry what podcast it was on, but it was with the author of that book, The Anxious Generation. And he was talking about similar things and what happens when kids get off social media. And it's really fascinating. I mean, I saw that happen in my kids whenever I would take them away too.
Mhm.
And frankly, it's something that I've been working on in my own life is, I hate to use the word being bored because I don't know that I'm ever bored per se, but I've actually been trying to practice being bored. Like, it's okay for me not to reach for my phone in this quiet
Yes.
moment. I can
Yeah.
just allow whatever happens in my head to happen, or like purposely plugging it in and putting it away at a certain time of night, even though I'm going to be up for a long time more, just to not be on it.
And with kids, if you have kids, teenagers and down, you probably have heard a lot these kids saying, "Mom, I'm bored. I'm
Yeah.
bored. I'm bored." And I mean, okay,
Yeah.
let's be bored. And maybe, that can help, because that's when children can learn how to manage conflict, even, with friends and siblings, because now they're going to have more contact with other humans, or how to problem solve, how to manage time, how to engage in their imagination, like the example with my daughter, even self-control, for not coming every single minute. It's like, I'm going to solve it for you. No, sweetie, I will not. So we created a list. The last time she was like, I'm bored. I'm like, let's create a list. So next time you're bored, you have options. What are the options? We're going to brush the dog. We can go outside. We can, and she created a list of
Yeah.
ideas, because let's
I
teach
love
them
that
this.
idea.
Yeah, let's let them be bored. Let them experience distress. Let them fail, and just be there to guide. At the end, isn't that our job anyway? And the last one, similar to something we talked last episode, if you have the chance, and I can help you with this, to become a better listener for your kids, please take the opportunity. I will be more than happy to create an online workshop just for this. If there are two things that I really believe, I read them, this is not based on research, but more on something I read a long time ago, and I believe it based on my professional and personal experience. If there are two things that human beings crave and really help with mental health, these are to feel appreciated, not loved, not cared for, appreciated, and to be heard, to feel heard. The amount of beautiness that you can bring to your kid's life in terms of your mental health when you really start listening and stop preaching so much, talk less to your kids, then you're going to find out so many things that are going to guide you as a parent on how to support your kids' mental health when we start to really listen. So let's do our kids that favor, and our partners and our friends and so many other people.
Our podcast co-hosts.
Yes.
Our podcast co-host. So that's what I have. I hope there's some takeaways for you from this episode.
Send us a message. Tell us what they are, what jumped out at you. We really want to hear. We will personally respond. Who knows? You might help shape a future episode.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a whole episode on it.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Anonymously, of course.
Anonymously. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to leave a like, share this episode or any episode with friends, family members, to leave a review.
Guys, listen, Elizabeth set this crazy goal for us a few months ago to double our downloads, and we are actually making really good progress. So we're all kind of hyped about it, and we really want to hit this goal. So
we need your help.
we need your help. So if
But you know, we're actually always preaching, asking for help. This is the Wellness Rebranded team
your help.
asking for your help.
please, please, please share this episode or share your favorite episode with
Put
people.
one of your favorite episodes up on your social media if you're active. Send it to a friend.
Text it to
Talk about it
somebody.
in your public library.
Just help us get the word out there, because this stuff is important and we want more people to hear it. We want to hit our goal because we are very goal-oriented people and we need you. So thank you.
Send it on your group chat. Bye.
Your group chat.
Thank you for listening. If you want to connect with me outside of this podcast, you can find me on Instagram at coaching_therapist.
I'm Elizabeth. You can find me at Elizabeth Harris Nutrition or in my Facebook group, Health and Healing with Intuitive Eating.
And I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Tara DeLeon Fitness. Guys, if you loved this episode or any of our other episodes, we would love it if you would leave us a review on Apple Podcast. It really, really helps us get the non-diet word out to the rest of the world. So please leave us a review.
Yes, thank you.